Hi everyone, it's Jerry. I have another odds game to share with you. LeelaRookOdds allowed Hikaru Nakamura to play 14 games. Time controls here 3+2. These were played on June 29th. I'm going to highlight one game. And in this game, we're going to see the simplification strategy in action. So in this one, no queen rook for Leela. This one kicks off with f4. Now, a frequent comment I'll see floating out there in response to viewing player X play against these odds bots is just trade. Just simplify, they'll say. Well, when you have a player as talented as Hikaru Nakamura failing to convert these simplified positions, what's the takeaway? It is never as simple as just simplify. We're going to see how Leela, I'll try to highlight with some light comments here throughout. We're going to see where I think at least Leela is given an inch. So already Nakamura here with d4 grabs some space, but I think this somewhat comes back to bite him. This is difficult to now sustain. So two attackers, one defender at the moment. Play from here is knight c6. Okay, this is secure. However, after c3, this can no longer be maintained. We see the capture on c3, and after this recapture towards the center, what we're looking at here is a sort of 4-on-1 in the center, with the knights here obstructing the flank pawns. Okay, we're going to see the simplification approach after bishop g7 and e4. Here we go. Nakamura gives back just a hair of material. Grabs the pawn on e4. Recapture, gets the queens off. Swipes the c3 pawn. Where do we stand? Nakamura is not only up the exchange, but 2 pawns. Things are looking good. How is it that Leela managed to stir up trouble? Okay, let's see. King improvement first. And now h4. So this advance here is already sort of disruptive. How exactly do you respond to h5? Okay, Nakamura develops the bishop. That's cool. Bishop b5. Pin broken. There's also a threat now, knight b4. Bishop's ready to fall. Leela obviously not going to fall for a trick there. Bishop c4 it is. And now the bishop returns, holding up this h5 idea, but the bishop questioned. Bishop plays to d7 here. If you go to h5, your bishop is dead with g4. Bishop d7, knight f3, bishop g4. This is the second time we've reached this position. Knight h2, bishop d7. Now what? If Leela in this position plays knight f3, Nakamura has the choice to end the game if he wants. Knight f3, bishop g4, we would have that position for a third time, threefold repetition draw. Leela's approach here, play ball. And this move is played welcoming a further exchange, further simplification. We see a pair of knights come off now. Knight d4 check, there we go. So it has simplified even more, but Leela is still able to stir up trouble. Now the knight gets back to its favorite square with tempo, and now there's this follow-up h5. Now, this is where Nakamura had pretty much the biggest think. This is irritating, this tension here. How exactly do you handle it? Do you allow this pawn to go a step further? Maybe this pawn will be tracked, and that white pawn is going to be very dangerous. Also, after h6, where would the bishop go? If this h6 move is allowed, where's the bishop going? f6, you're squashed with e5. Do you want to meet h6 by going back home? What's this rook doing? Looks all very clumsy. What about h6 in this position? If black tries h6, this is going to weaken some interior squares. F pawn pulled away, capturing away from the center. e6 and e5 are the squares I have in mind. They're now holes. e-pawn isolated. It's uncomfortable however you look at it. There's going to be some concession by black. At the end of the day, he captures on h5. Rook recaptures, so now this is a very active piece. Isolated pawn, targeted, a lot of options for this rook here. Anything else stick out to me about this position? Yes. Look at the black's pieces. They're still on ranks 7 and 8. Now, I have my own experience playing against these odds bots, and I could totally relate to these situations. It somehow manages to restrict your pieces where you're just working on 2 ranks. Leela here working on 5. Now, after this recapture bishop g4, we have more simplification coming up here, so only 3 pieces to try and fend off as black. Now, in the computer's eyes, still considered winning here for black. Bishop f6 follows, rook f5. You have to babysit this point now. Right around the corner, there's e5, and this is ready to collapse. There is an unopposed bishop in the position. Another detail, there are 2 passed pawns, but they're a long ways away from posing any serious threat. From here, it is rook f8, e5, naturally, an alpha 0 pawn appears in the game. Bishop to h4, bishop e3, rook kicked, rook h5, bishop g3, the king improves, queenside castles with check, king e2. Now, this rook is on an open file, but what wonderful options does it have? All of these squares are taken away from the rook. It's almost like it's ineffective. You're on an open file, who cares? Got all the squares covered. Also, this bishop doesn't have a wide range of options. It's nearly trapped. After rook h3, where does the bishop go? Black has to be in a spot to babysit. It's already somewhat uncomfortable. Okay, from here we have h6. Now, Stockfish points out you could take here on f4 and be winning, but this is not at all an appealing variation for a human. You are not getting the bishop back in this situation. It says at this point here there's only one winning move. You have to go with rook to a4. Probably not a wise choice to allow Leela to have these monster bishops here. So the approach in this game, we don't see some trick on f4. h6 is played. Leela doesn't bite. Responds here with bishop b3, secure square, sidestep any tricks, any possible fork there on the 4th rank. If Leela captured here on h6, you may be asking for more trades. And there's rook h8. If you're avoiding the rook exchange, rook activity is there, so pretty much a poison pawn here on h6. The play from here, bishop on a secure square, and b6. So the passed pawn, maybe, looking to finally get rolling. But Leela is there first now with this break, targeting e6. And it's already tricky. After bishop captures e5, it's now considered a draw. If you take here on f5, it's difficult to know what Leela is going to come up with, but in Stockfish's eyes, it's looking at the immediate recapture or this idea to play f4. And once more, my attention here is drawn to this bishop. It's sort of a stuck piece. Okay. The play from here after f5, bishop captures e5, f takes e, bishop d6, pawn takes pawn. Nakamura thought he was going to be able to get this pawn back. Missed. That pawn can actually be hung on to. The last try by Nakamura to try and save this one is some more simplification with rook e7 and now giving up the exchange, and we're pulled into an opposite color bishop position, but this rook is so passive. This is pretty much an impossible task. to hold this. So let's see the approach. The kings improve. Rook targets the pawn, and now the king enters here. By this point, it's a decisive position. Double isolated pawns. Leela's going to show us that this is actually a strength. Watch what these pawns end up doing in just a bit. They start rolling right here. There we go. F4, F5, F6. What more can they do? These two are taking away 4 squares from the king. And the plan from here is simple. Also, this last move, shielding the king against any checks. Follow up from here, Rook E2, Rook D8, defending the mate threat. And after just one more move, Bishop D5, Nakamura resigns. It's a mate in 4 from here. Follow up is going to be Bishop C6 and Rook E8. And there's nothing that black can do to interfere with this. So Leela, without a rook, doesn't matter. This simplification strategy also never so simple to convert. This was not a one-off game. Keep in mind they played 14. Final standings in the end, a convincing 9.5 to 4.5 in Leela's favor. Anyhow, your thoughts with this one. Feel free as usual to leave any feedback to this video in the comment section below. Hope you enjoyed it. Maybe found this one a little fun. That's all for now. Take care.